Welcome back to the channel. This is Marcus Sniffles, and we're here to talk about the Colts offseason, and surprisingly, Chris Ballard has done some things. So let's get to it.
We make the f***ing rules this time. No more talk. Just win. Let's go.
Touchdown! I-N-D-Y! Anthony Richardson.
All right, so before we get started, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. I need you guys to do all three of those things on this video right now. Like the video, drop a comment, hit the subscribe button. You guys are watching these videos. You guys keep coming back to the channel to watch the videos. If you subscribe to the video, then you'll never miss the video. So do me a favor and please hit the subscription button. Just hit the little button right there. It's really easy. So before we talk about the big free agent signings the Colts made, let's talk real quick about what the Colts lost. And that is Ryan Kelly, who has been, at the time that he left, he was the longest tenured Colt on the team. He was the last player from the Ryan Grigson era, and we kind of talked about this previously as far as maybe shifting into a more of a youth movement not a youth movement, but we saw what the offensive line could be like with Tanner Bornolini, and as far as that position went, it went fine, and he's only a rookie, so he's going to get better as years go on. And you kind of want his timeline to be in line with Anthony Richardson's timeline because they're both young players. So I'm fine with that. I'm glad that Ryan Kelly's going to continue playing. He's going to Minnesota for, I think he got like a 2-year deal, and he got some pretty decent money, which is good. I'm glad he was able to go out there and find a good team that he can play with, and hopefully, win some games and make the playoffs and do something with the last few years of his career. So I'm happy for Ryan Kelly. I'm happy that he's able to go out there and hopefully, make some money and hopefully win some games out there in Minnesota. I definitely think his name is going to go in the Ring of Honor. He's been a leader in the locker room. I believe he's been a captain damn near every year that he's been here, and he's been an anchor as far as leading one of the best offensive lines his whole time here. So I'm glad that he spent a majority of his prime and career here, and wish him nothing but the best. The Colts also restructured Braden Smith's contract. A lot of offseason chatter was more so about him getting cut and saving or adding $18 to $20 million in cap space by cutting him. He has had some availability issues the last year or two, and apparently he's had some off-field issues going on this past season. Nobody really knows what it is, and I'm not going to go and be nosy and trying to find that stuff out because it's personal, but it seems like that he is good to go this coming year. And with him, restructuring his contract a little bit to free up a little bit of cap space, that's good for the team. And I think when it comes to restructuring, that means the player gets more money up front. So that's good for him. Also, hopefully whatever he was going through has been resolved. And he can kind of get back to being a high level right tackle, because when he's out there and he's playing and his mind is right and his body's right, Braden Smith is a top 10 right tackle. So I feel very comfortable about where our offensive line is right now going forward. And we also re-signed Ashton Doolin, which was, obviously that was going to happen. That's a Ballard guy. But the main thing we're going to talk about is the two big key free agents that Chris Ballard signed on day one, which is pretty rare because he doesn't really do that often, signing a big name, big money free agents. And the first one he got was Cameron Bynum, 4-year deal, $60 million. He played for the Vikings. Now, his name didn't sound familiar to me, but once I started watching his highlights, and it wasn't really the highlights of him playing, it was the highlights of his celebration, all the dancing he did, all the he did the white chick celebration. He did the the Australian breakdancer celebration. Like, he's done a lot of creative things. So that's probably where you know him from if you're more of a casual football fan. But I went through, looked at some of his highlights, looked at some of his like PFF grades, and some of the things that I do like about Cameron Brennan is his versatility as a safety. So he can play free safety, but he can also come down in the box as far as like run support. Say, God forbid, if something happens to Nick Cross and, God forbid, we have to put Rodney Thomas at free safety. Cameron Bynum can move down into the box and play a little bit of strong safety for some run support. He can also play the slot, maybe cover tight ends, more of like, a Kyle Hamilton type of role. And he's explosive. Like, he's not a Bob Sanders, Nick Cross type of like run stopper, but he's not afraid to, get in there and make a play. And he makes plays on the ball. I feel like he's got good hands. And he played in Minnesota, he played under Brian Flores, and he's big on the, blitzing, zero blitz, and being able to read and react and not having, like, he obviously is a safety, but knowing like, hey, there's no help back here. This pass is going to come out quickly because we're putting pressure on the quarterback. So you have to be ready to go with whatever is coming your way. And Cameron Bynum is good for that. And that's good for Lou Anarumo's defensive scheme because he, unlike Gus Bradley, is going to be more inclined to call more blitzes, play more man-to-man coverage, play more tight coverage, move the safeties down. Like, I've watched a few highlights where it's so weird watching secondary players where they're not 20 yards downfield. Like, they're up, especially for a safety to be up 10, a free safety to be just 10 yards off of the ball as compared to in Gus Bradley's scheme where the safeties are like 25 yards off the ball. So that was good to see. Last year, Cameron had 3 interceptions, which would have tied the team lead on Indy. I think Nick Cross had 3, Julian Blackman had 3, and I believe Kenny Moore had 3. So he'd have been tied for first on our defense with that. And he only allowed 1 touchdown pass last year. I saw conflicting things with that. I saw one site that said he only allowed 1. I saw another site that said he only allowed 2. Either way, that's pretty great. As a free safety, to only allow 2 touchdowns in 1 season. He hasn't missed any games all the 3 years he was in Minnesota. So that's also another plus. It's like, it just shows that he's a reliable player. He's going to show up every game. And that's not to say that he doesn't get hurt, but he apparently can play through injury, has maybe a higher pain tolerance. And it's an old football cliche, but the best ability is availability. And Cameron Bynum is always there, and he's always ready to play. And he's also still pretty young. He's only 26 years old, and he seems to be an ascending player. Like, he hasn't really peaked yet, and he isn't on the downward slope, so he is still going to get better, and I think he's going to fit great in the scheme and on this defense. And when it comes to his, like, some people view the like the dancing and the celebration and the the swagger and the confidence as a negative. For me, I look at that as a positive. I only look at it as a positive when we're talking about like secondary players and wide receivers. Like, the further you are from the trenches, the further you are away from the ball, the more confidence and almost cockiness you need to have to be able to play that position, because you're kind of out there by yourself. And if you're a player that's confident enough in yourself to have all these celebrations and things planned, you know that people are going to be looking for you, and that you're basically putting more pressure on yourself to succeed, because if you fail, people are going to point to all those celebrations and say, well, you're too busy doing all this stuff and you're getting beat for a touchdown, as opposed to knowing like, hey, I'm going to do my job at an elite level so I can celebrate on you. And so I like that about, like, me personally, I prefer cocky, arrogant, confident, swaggy, defensive backs and wide receivers. I think that's part of what makes a lot of these players great. And a stat that I saw about Cameron Bynum before we move on, he's only had he's had 1 penalty called on him his entire career. Like, how is that possible? Like, just one? Like, even with as aggressive as he is, to only have one penalty called on you is damn near unheard of. So I'm liking the signing. That pretty much probably means Julian Blackmon is not going to be back. We're probably not going to draft a safety. I would be stunned and a little bit surprised if we were to do that. But before we go to the next Colts signing, you've been here. You've been here. I've already told you this once. I'm not gonna keep warning you, because after a while, it's just gonna start being threats. I'm going to have to start threatening you guys to like these videos and hit the subscription button. You're already here. You've been here for a while. Just go ahead and do that. So the next player we're going to talk about is Chadarius Ward. He signed a 3-year deal for $60 million. As far as his skill set, he's kind of the same. He's got good size, good speed, explosive. When he gets the ball in his hands, he knows how to make a play with it. And since like 2022, he's had an 85 coverage grade, which was 6th in the NFL, and has forced 35 incompletions, which is tied for 8th. And the thing I like about him is that he, just like, Cameron Bynum, he's played in defenses where man coverage, blitzing, and tackling is vital and important. Like if you're a cornerback and they call a zero blitz and they throw at your guy and you're right there and you miss a tackle, you might be the last line of defense. There might not be a safety in the middle of the field to help you. There might not be anybody over the top to help you. So there's more pressure and eyes on you to do your job in those moments. He played on the Kansas City defense. He played in San Francisco. Like I was big, and this kind of applies to both of them, for Cameron and Tre'Davious. Like I wanted Brian Flores to be our defensive coordinator. I wanted someone from Steve Spagnuolo's defensive staff to be our defensive coordinator. But we didn't get any of those guys, but we got some players that are familiar with those systems and are coming from those systems. So I feel like that should be able to roll over into what we have, and, including that what Lou's new system is going to be. I feel like these two guys by themselves could really elevate this Colts defense. And especially with Chadarius Ward, if you look at how our secondary played last year, Jalen Jones was fine. Sam Womack was for a waiver wire pickup. He was fine. Kenny Moore. Juju Brents is kind of like, that's going to be a luxury player now. But let's say that entire cornerback room is healthy. Now you move everybody down the slot. So now you have Chadarius Ward covering your number 1 receiver, and you have Jalen Jones, or you have Juju Brents covering your number 2 receiver. And then you have Jalen Jones or Kenny Moore possibly covering your slot guys or your third outside receiver. Like there's a lot of things that this defense can do, and it automatically improves to one of the better secondaries. And if Latu can be what we think Latu can be, and we start maybe blitzing a little bit more and have a little bit more of an attacking, explosive defense, then things could get a little bit scary in Indianapolis when it comes to the defense. So I'm happy that we've got some explosive and speed in the secondary, and guys that are like veterans in this league. Like they're not young guys that haven't been around and done things. So I think both of these moves were good. I'm sure if we went through and broke down the actual numbers of the contract, Chris Ballard is great at saving money and finding ways to kind of get out of contracts if things don't go the way that they want them to go. So I'm sure he did well in that area. But for me personally, I'm excited about this. It's been a while since the Colts have had a defense with secondary guys that you could like legitimately rely on, like on the outside. Like not since Vontae Davis have we had a cornerback where it's like, okay, you got this guy and we don't have to worry about you. Like you're there, deal with that guy. And we got a guy that can play over the top and in the box and in the slot. So let me know what you guys think about it. Is Chris Ballard back? Let me know in the comments. Peace.
Thanks for watching, babe. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel.